Welcome, welcome back to Crafting a Meaningful Life, a life that you're thrilled to be living right now, and a life that you're excited to be at the end and look back and say, wow, that was a darn good life. And isn't that really what we all want, is to be able to look back and see that and know that we have lived the most incredible life. And to that end, I have on with me today Lexi Dopp. And Lexi has lived a life that I think many of us can relate to. When you were, say, in your high school years and you kind of had a vision of what your life was going to look like, I did. I can remember in my high school yearbook, I had written down, I want to go to college, I think, but the moment that I get married, I don't need to go to college anymore. I just want to be a stay-at-home mom and have lots of babies and have a wonderful husband. And don't we all?
Yes, I was very goal oriented. I still am. But I just remember growing up, I loved laying in my bed late at night and making lists and making goal sheets and making plans and how my life's going to look and working so hard to achieve those things. And I just felt so much like pride and just a dopamine hit every time I achieved something.
Yeah.
And I loved being able to like lay out this plan and put those puzzle pieces together and from a really young age. And so as I went into middle school and, the things I wanted, I achieved them. And then high school, I achieved them. And I just started building this life in my early adulthood and it was going exactly how I planned. But sometimes you don't need to force the plan. And I was definitely forcing the plan. And I learned a lot as those plans kind of unraveled.
It's an amazing thing as we lay out life's plan at a young age. And then when we're actually living the plan, it sometimes turns out to be just a little bit different. And my life did. It's why when I talk to young women who don't want to complete their college education just because they've gotten married, I'm like, you don't know what's coming ahead of you. And you didn't know either.
No. Yeah. So, like I said, I love to plan. I got married to my high school sweetheart really young. And like I said, it was forced. I didn't know that. I think every young person is a little bit codependent. You only know what you know. And so that relationship didn't work out. And that was devastating to me. It just wasn't a good fit. And so the relationship ended and I just was so crushed that this love of my life, that wasn't my partner anymore, that this plan that I had was unraveling. I felt like my life had blown up and I was so young and so lost and I just didn't really know where to go next. It was just earth shattering to me.
Yeah. And so you were married. How old were you when you got married?
I was 21 when I got married, but it had been a 7-year relationship.
Okay.
And so that was kind of all I had ever known. And so we were only married a year and a half, but it just crushed me. And it wasn't just the breakup that was hard. It was the life I thought I was building was suddenly gone in a day. It was the kids I thought I was going to have and the vacations we were going to take. And the dreams that we had together, and again, this plan I had in my head of all these goals I had, and they all involved him. And so all of a sudden, I was grieving all of these non-existent things. I felt so silly. I felt so crazy because I had all these emotions. I felt sad and angry and grateful that I had made this choice, and I knew this was the right choice for my life, and that I was choosing the better path for my future, but it was still so sad. And I didn't feel like I could explain it to anyone because whenever I just opened up a little bit, someone would be like, oh, well, at least, and would just give me these things that I was like, you don't get it. Like, I feel crazy. You don't get it. And I just felt so stuck and lost.
I think that we all fall into that pattern of giving the absolute worst advice to people when they are in tragedy. will say things just like that. I can hear those words coming out of my mouth. Well, Lexi, at least you found out early. At least you
Yeah, at
found to be.
least you didn't have
That's the one
kids.
I would have said. At least you didn't have children. At least you can start
Mhm.
over again. At least you're only 21. At least, all these things to you, which are not comforting to you at all.
Yeah, that experience gave me so much empathy at a really young age and information of, oh my gosh, I could have been saying these things to heartbroken people for the next 20 years. But now I know what to say when people are in trauma. I can be trauma informed. I can be there to listen and to just say, I'm so sorry you're feeling this right now. I'm so sorry you're walking through this path. Instead of being uncomfortable with their sadness, I know what that's like now to be in that utter discomfort, that I can sit with them
Yeah.
and not try and like paint silver linings on their trauma.
Yeah. I think that that is an incredible gift to have at such a young age because, it took me years to really learn that skill set of how to help and support and what to say to people. And I think you will agree with this, where I see it the most is on social media when people share a trauma that's happened in their life and just people come on and bombard with advice and help and especially in the death of someone, at least you'll get to see
Yeah.
them in the afterlife. That's not helping
Yeah.
them with today where they are
No.
completely devastated. So Lexi, is
Yeah, it's not helpful.
it's not. So as you're thinking about we reach out and support people, um, what would be your piece of advice to other people who want to give advice? And what is the best way to be there for someone and to really show our support and that they feel embraced by our love?
I think that just sending a message, hi, I'm thinking of you. I'm so sorry you're walking through this right now. And then offering ideas to help them instead of, is there anything I can do for you? Like, no one's going to say, come clean my house. I could use some lunch today. So when I do it, I love to give options, and the support system in my life, when I've gone through hard times, they've done this for me. I'm so sorry that this is happening. I'm thinking of you. I would love to go to lunch with you. If you're not like, and I'll pay, if you're not filling up for an outing, I'm going to drop off some food. Which do you want?
Right.
And so I get to pick. Do I want an outing? Do I need to get out of the house? Do I want to get ready and feel cute and have that social outing? Or do I just need the comfort meal at my own home by myself? And so I think offering that gift that is like functional is so helpful and gracious and helps them be seen. And also you're taking care of your people.
Right. I love that. That's such a great piece of advice to try and be on their level. And, sometimes all people know is that they are seen. And just to
Yeah.
be,
Even just the I'm thinking of you text can go so far when people feel so sad and so lonely, to know that someone somewhere, just their hardship is popping into their head, is like lifts a little bit of that burden that they're not alone.
yeah, you began to tell people about what was going to happen to you, that you're going through a divorce, and that this is something that you've chosen, blah 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 blah. What happened next? What kind of a mood or a state of mind did you find yourself in?
I This was a very intentional choice, even though it was hard and sad. And so I really tried through this heartbreak and traumatic experience to always do like the best that I could, the best next thing. And so I had to find new coping skills. I had to find new things to do. I didn't have my person anymore. So when I was bored, what am I going to do? I don't want to scroll on my phone on social media. I don't want to like emotionally eat. So I really started developing habits that helped me feel better. I found that being outside helped me feel better. I found that like going and doing things by myself, I call them solo dates, going out and like working at a coffee shop, that helped me feel better. And journaling is something that if I was just feeling so lonely, I have nothing to do, I should text my ex. Like, that's when I pulled out my journal and I wrote down all, just like word vomited all the things that were in my head onto the journal. And that was so therapeutic to me that it became a daily routine that helped me feel better. It helped me, like I said earlier, I felt so crazy. I had so many emotions. I was feeling so many things at once. And being able to journal, I was able to lay all of that internal mess onto paper and get so much clarity. And so journaling to me became such a powerful tool that helped me navigate this really grief-stricken time in a healthy way. I think if I wouldn't have had journaling, that I wouldn't have been able to heal as healthy.
Okay, so I'm going to be just buck honest with you about journaling.
Uh-huh.
I was an avid journaler through college.
Mm-hmm.
We were told we were supposed to do it, and I was a very obedient child.
Yeah.
And I had just spiral binder after spiral binder of every day. And then I journaled through my first 2 or 3 years of marriage. But I got so tired of seeing the same thing on the page every day because I was in a very destructive, abusive relationship for 28 years. And even after 3 years, I just couldn't read that vomit on the page anymore.
Yeah.
And that every day, week after week, month after month, I just kept writing down the same things. This is the interesting part. Rather than changing my life, I stopped journaling. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And so if people are struggling with trying to journal, and I've had so many people talk to me about that there's such a value there, how do you help people start that journaling habit?
Yeah. I relate to what you said, that it was encouraged to journal often, to
Yeah.
document your days. And so that's how I grew up. I would get gifted journals from my grandma, and I'd start a new journal, and I'm going to do it every day this time with this new journal. And I had a very Dear Diary approach, I call
Yeah.
it. Dear Diary,
Yeah.
this is what happened today. And if I missed a week, I felt like I had to go back to last Sunday and journal the whole week. Or like, if I missed a few months, I had to recap for my great great granddaughter all the things that had happened in the past 3 months because I hadn't been
Exactly.
consistent.
Yes.
Yeah, and it becomes a chore. It's not fun. It's not helpful. If that is fun to you, keep doing it. But the journaling that I'm talking about is a mental health tool. And so you don't have to do it every day. You do it when, like I said, as a tool, and it's unfiltered. And so you can talk about your abusive husband and the mean things he's doing and how you feel about it. You can burn that page if you don't want your kids to see it. You don't want this to live on in history. But the power to be able to get all of those thoughts and feelings and events onto paper so that you can see
Yeah.
them and get clarity and decide, what am I going to do next? Whether it's the next second, what is the next activity I'm doing with my day to be productive? What am I doing next with my month? What are goals I have? Or am I getting a divorce? If you see those feelings enough, those are, it's information. Our feelings are information. If we keep it bottled up, it's destructive. And so I just am such an advocate for journaling because you're able to get that out. But you can't always do that with the Dear Diary approach because you're holding back feelings because you don't want people to see it.
That just absolutely shifted my thoughts toward journaling. The difference between that, what I've always thought of recording for all history and time and all eternity, what
Yeah.
I wanted them to read and to make a history of my life. I'm not sure anyone's ever going to read that. But to journal for my benefit and to journal for my mental health, that is a completely different approach. I know that you have some
Yeah.
tools that help people with this, Lexi. So talk to me about some of the tools that you've developed.
So when I began journaling, I found a guided journal, and that really helped me. It was specifically for death. So I related to it because it was the death of a marriage, the death of my dreams, but a lot of the prompts were not relevant. So I'd read a prompt, it would kind of spark an idea like, oh, I'm not feeling that, but I'm feeling this. So I'd cross it out and write a new prompt. And so I did that with
Huh.
the whole journal. And I wouldn't go in order. Again, this journal's for me. I can do it however I want, whenever I want. So I would just flip through all of the prompts until I found one that was kind of tugging at my heartstrings. And then I would start writing. And by the time I finished the journal, I just was like, this is such a powerful tool and everyone needs to know about this. Like everyone feels grief, whether it's death or divorce or job loss or your family dynamics change or you get an illness. I know I've listened to your podcast and you've talked about arthritis. There's grief that goes with
Yeah.
that, like your body not being able to do the things that it once was, and being able to journal those feelings and also set goals in the same time of how you want to like be proactive about it. That's really powerful. And so I wanted to create a journal that was for grief, but more general for the feeling instead of the event. It wasn't for death or miscarriage or divorce. It was for the feeling. And so with our journal, it is like so aesthetic and pretty and happy. It makes you like feel good while you're going through these hard things. But the prompts make you feel and pull out those deep, dark emotions that need to come out. Because if they stay in your body, it's destructive and creates illness and creates more bad habits without clarity.
Absolutely. You know, it's that old book and adage that I'm such a supporter of, and that is that feelings buried alive never die. They're always still in there. And
Yeah.
journaling is one of those ways that we can bring those feelings back up, write them down, look at them, begin to deal with them one by one. But I have to say, I really admire you, Lexi, I mean, in many ways, but in one big one in particular. And that is that you probably grew up in a home and you definitely grew up in a society where there was one way to do things and there was not an alternative. There was one way. And I think
Yeah.
about starting a journal that had prompts. And trust me, I've had people gift me journals that had prompts in them. But because I came to one where I was stuck, and I'm like, I don't know how to write about that, or I don't know what that is, or I don't not really feeling that, then I would just stop. But
Close it.
you
It collects
had the
dust.
courage to like cross through it. And you wrote your own. You wrote your own story. You wrote your own things you wanted to do. You weren't boxed in with this box of what you, heaven forbid, should be doing.
Yeah. I think that my divorce really shattered the should for me because I was the should girl. I was projecting those, you have to do it X, Y, and Z, and you have to do it in order. And the rules are black and white. And all of a sudden, I had followed these rules for 23 years of my life, and it wasn't working for me anymore. My life was in shambles, and I needed to find a new way. And so I was just clawing every day to do my very best, the very best I could do. And only I knew that. If someone on the outside, they'd be like, that girl's a mess. But I knew that was my best.
Right.
And so it was a survival tactic for me. And then I would get messages from people going through hard times, especially young girls going through divorces. And they'd be like, what, like, where do I start? And I would always say therapy because I am such an advocate of therapy. There's so many patterns and shadows that we all have that affect our day-to-day choices. So I always say therapy, but my second one was journaling. And they're like, do you have a journal you suggest? And I'm like, no, but this is how I do it. And so I created this journal to be able to help people in an easy, accessible way. It's affordable. It's less than a therapy copay. And if people aren't ready to commit to therapy, it's something that they can do in the comfort of their own homes. And so I wanted people to be able to have these tools.
When I remember seeing pictures on your website with this, and listeners, we've included her link at the end of the podcast to her Instagram and also into her website where you can look at this journal. It is so bright.
And we'll give you a code at the
Okay.
end.
It is so bright and cheery. Just as I was looking at it, I thought, oh, I would love to get that out every day and just jot down some thoughts and ideas about my own mental health and where I was. It's interesting how that sometimes we have to have those major events in our life, like a divorce, to shift us into a different light. And
Yeah.
so I went through my divorce at age 55. And really, my shift didn't begin until age 50. So my shift really took hold at 55. And so I've only been living this shift for 15 years. Now at 70, I feel like I just have a new lease on life. But
Yeah.
Lexi, the reason that I do this podcast, and I want really you and everyone to understand this, is because I don't want everyone to wait until they're 55 or 70 to feel this energy, this light, this lift, this understanding of who they are. That's why I have people like you on. So you can talk about how that really you were still in your 20s when all of this, and you still are in your 20s, okay? So, this shift that's happening and available now, you don't have to wait. You can be your very best self today.
Yeah. And I admire, like, honestly, pioneers like you, because I think about these tools and really how easy they are. But then I think about my parents and my grandparents and my great grandparents and how long it took my parents to start deconstructing their shoulds.
Yeah,
And like my grandparents, they never deconstructed their
yeah,
shoulds, you know? And so, like, the fact that you did and you pivoted in such a big way and
yeah,
you're just sharing this knowledge, these like really easy things, but when, like you said, society and our mind and our patterns, they're so like black and white
yeah.
sometimes that it's important to share.
Speaking of the word should, that's probably one of the biggest shifts I had. Just that I always say, I was should all over me. I used to should me right and left. You should do this. You should do this. And then, of course, when you're in that mode of what I should do, I projected that onto other people of what they should do and what they should be doing. And, I can think of so many times talking even to my children about, well, you should, which is actually a form of shaming,
Mm-hmm.
shaming ourselves and shaming others that we're not in that space. And so you should be someplace different. And my husband John now knows that we don't should in this house, and so he will say something about like, well, I should do this, and I look at him, and he'll like, well, what else would I say? I should do that. What do you want me to say? And so we work on it until we come up with another word that is more empowering than it is
Mm-hmm.
shaming.
Yeah, something that I learned in therapy that was really powerful for me is that I have choices, even when I don't feel like I do, even when I'm at the bottom. I learned this when I got laid off. I didn't know what to do. And she's like, well, you could move back in with your parents. You could just get rid of your lease. And I'm like, well, that would ding my credit. I can't do that. And she's like, you could. You have that
Yeah,
choice. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to choose this other thing because I want to do that. I'm like, I want to do this harder thing because I don't want these consequences. And that was a really powerful lesson for me that you always have a choice, even when it's hard.
just think of how empowered we could all be, and I truly never use that word now, but if everyone let go of that word should, and we saw first the word could, we could choose, is a very self-empowering. I could, or like your therapist taught you, you could do something else. But also, it opens up the world of choice. And
Yeah.
that's what you were saying, this world of choice that we sometimes, when we should on ourselves, that we don't see that there are other choices we could choose. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, like, it's little things even. I don't even let John get away with it. Like, he says, well, I should go to the gym today. Really? You should? So he starts in and yeah, I really should go to the gym. And I'm like, well, you could go to the gym, or you could go for a walk, or you could call up some buddies and go play tennis, or you could, I mean,
Yeah.
there's suddenly a whole world of things out there for us. Lexi, you have so opened up that world for so many people. What would you say has been one of the goals that you really put in front of yourself as you began this change that now you are walking in?
I think before, like I said, I was a planner, I was a doer. I really felt accomplished by my output. I it was a
Yeah.
badge of honor. Like I didn't sleep last night and I worked 80
Well,
hours
it's
this
a
week, and
badge.
I call it the badge of busy. I had the badge of busy, my calendar was packed, and I was so proud. I was better than everyone because I could do more. And all of a sudden, when my divorce happened, my nervous system shut down and I really had to learn how to slow down. And so I still get in that pattern because I love to be productive. I love to set goals. I think it's one of my strengths, but also being able to dial it back and create space. I think a beautiful life has space. I have space to play with my baby. I have space to just hang out with my family. I have space to spend time outside. That is where life happens. I think the goals are so important, and I love being able to add things to my calendar each week to further my goals. I think that's so important. But also, I want there to be space on that calendar because that's when the joy is. That's when the memories are made. And like, I just learned through all of these hard things that I can do so much with less. I can do so much with less work, less money. Like, you need more time, so not less time. But I just don't need all the stuff. I don't need all the things to do. I don't need all the money, all the clothes. Like, life is beautiful, you know?
I do know. And I love that you are sharing that exact thing with the world now, that it's something you can achieve. When I think about all the, speeches, talks, keynotes that I've given, the one most asked question at the end of every single one is the same. And it's always from a woman. And she asks, how do you achieve balance in your life? And I'm like, first of all, let's address the fact that that's a myth. And that is one of the great lies we've learned. And what we see on social media is
Mm-hmm.
not possible. But this this is a gift that you have received, and it's probably the most valuable thing that you will be sharing with women. And that is that when you choose what you want in your life, and you are still a goal setter, like I am a reformed goal setter. So now I set goals for me and not
Yeah.
for the world. But you said something very critical, which I am going to add to my answer now to this. How do you achieve balance in your life? You said, I still am a goal setter, but a beautiful life has space. And I don't want to hold up my phone anymore and show people my calendar and say,
Mm-hmm.
wow, aren't I wonderful? Look how much I can do. But rather say, and look at these spots that I have created for myself with space for myself, my spouse, my family, the universe. You are taking time for you.
Yeah, and I think you get so much clarity in that space. And also in the busy, one thing I'll say is our feelings are information. And so when you're working, grinding hard, achieving those goals, notice your feelings without shame, just notice. And then when you're having space, notice your feelings. I think both are important, but they're definitely, it's yin and yang.
Yeah.
You know, you have to have both and adjust often. I think every season that we have to adjust. And like you said, balance is not a real
Yeah.
thing, but things can for sure get out of whack.
Yeah.
And so just being able to notice how you feel and just make little pivots. You don't need to like totally reset your life, but just make little changes. And again, if you don't know how you feel about those things, just take it to a journal. Like write once a week for a month how you feel. And then just take inventory, notice what the pattern is, and then just make little changes.
So powerful. So much wisdom out of this little young head. To me, seems young. Do you know what I mean? But age is not ever the issue here. It's the wisdom and the light that you have brought into your own life. One of the things that kept coming to me when you were talking just now was this sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the journey. Mm-hmm. And I want to always be careful not to empower the struggle and the down and the dark. Because sometimes I think people feel like, well, I haven't ever experienced anything super traumatic, so does that make me like less than? No.
Yeah.
But that whatever the struggle is, there is journey and there is learning. And you have done that. You've taken the struggle.
I will say that sometimes I do have a little bit of a scarcity mindset and a victim mindset. And so it's a practice.
Yeah.
I have to it's a choice. Like you have to choose where you're going to go.
So tell me, what do you fill your life with now?
What do I fill it with? Again, the goals. I love the goals, but my goals have changed. I love to be creative. So instead of grinding on my business and being like, these are all the goals I need to do, I try to focus on fun. Like, what can I create today for social media or an email that's fun? Or like, what's this spin on a sales pitch I can do that's fun? Getting ready for the day that's, fun. I really prioritize fun now, which I didn't before. I prioritized like grinding hard and making sure everyone saw it. And now it's like fun for me. On the days that I have space or the times in my day that I have space, what's something fun that I can do with my family? Making meal prepping fun, making like, if I have an extra hour, I'm like, let's go to the splash pad. Like that's my favorite thing to do with my baby. Or just playing with her in the mornings, really prioritizing fun and intertwining it with all the goals. So again, what emotion do you want to feel and how can you kind of manipulate and romanticize your life to fit those emotions you want to have? Do you want to have more joy? Do you want to feel power? Like what can you do in your day to step up the power? Is it like a fun blazer? Is it, the coffee that you get? Just really taking those details and elevating them.
Yeah. Well, this last week I stayed with my 2 grandchildren while my son and his wife went to Turkey. And we were there 10 days. And at first, when we first went, I thought, 10 days? This is like a long time to be caring for children. That's why we have children when we're younger. But they're 14 and 16, and they were so easy to be with. And it was more of a fun thing because they're old enough to enjoy great restaurants and the movies I like and the activities I liked. And we went and did so many fun things. And John played pickleball and tennis till he was exhausted with them and just so many things like that. So, but when I was there, the purpose of that story was that my son has a different kind of making coffee in the morning than I do. And so I was experimenting with his way. And afterwards, I would tell John every day, this cup of coffee is amazing. And so I use a French press and he uses a pour over. So last night I'm on Amazon, just looking, and I end up spending like a small fortune. And John said, what did you buy? And I said, I bought all this pour over stuff. And he just looked at me. He said, at your age of life, you're going to completely change how you drink your coffee and how you make it. And you're going to spend all this money. Well, why not? If that's where joy is, if that's where something I really enjoy is located, why isn't that okay? And sometimes get in that scarcity mindset that, well, at your age, Mary, you shouldn't be spending frivolously. And, find your joy in what you've got and don't be looking for the greener grass on the other side. I think that is a scary place to sometimes live. Yes, I want to always live in abundance, but abundance looks different for everyone. And for
Yeah.
me,
And that's also toxic positivity. Like life has to have ups and downs. That's the journey. That's how we
yeah,
learn, you know? If it was like up, up, up all the time, we wouldn't feel that
yeah.
joy.
Lexi, as we leave today and begin to do our wrap, I'd like you to share with my listeners, and I know you well enough to know that you always share from your heart. What is a vulnerability piece that you are now sharing that has brought you closer to others and to your true self?
Accountability for me. And I know that's kind of a weird answer, but being able to take accountability has made my relationships so much richer because I'm able to own my choices and also not project judgment on other people when I have a place to play in those relationships. And so being able to own my triumphs and also my mistakes has made my partnership, my romantic partnership, so much better. I feel like it makes me a better mom. It makes me a better daughter and sister. It makes me a better friend. And then also it makes me a more responsible business owner and creator online because I want to be authentic. I want to be inclusive. I want to be generous and genuine. And so really staying accountable to those values helps me be a more responsible creator and sharer, and just my friends on the internet that I don't necessarily see every day or talk to, but it just creates more of a real vulnerable picture.
Yeah, I love that. Accountability is probably one of the greatest gifts that anyone will ever choose to bring into their life when they can.
And it's
It is
hard.
so hard.
Accountability is hard.
But
You have to work at it really hard. I'm in therapy for it.
but the great news about being accountable for every single thing that's going on in your life is that if you don't like what's going on in your life, you can change it.
Choose.
You can change it. You can choose. If this is not what I want, I can shift and do something different. If you're a victim, there's no shifting. There's no changing. There's no choosing. It's just what everyone has dealt out to you. Oh, woe is me. And you are a radiant example of how this doesn't have to happen in your 50s, 60s, 70s. This can happen now. You are a radiant example. And may I just say, you do radiate of what life can be when you step into accountability. Lexi, share with people about your website and getting their hands on this journal.
Yeah, so the journal, like I said, it's less than a therapy copay. You can get it at Leifa Collective, Lefa. LefaCollective.com, and that's our Instagram at Leifa Collective on all platforms. My personal social media is at Lexi Dopp. And we could do a giveaway if you want on your favorite social media platform.
Love that. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, but I would think probably Instagram would be best for, let's do Instagram.
Yeah, we can do the giveaway on Instagram. So head to Mary's latest post, and it will be a collaborator post. And then all the listeners can get 15% off with the code Mary on our website.
I love that. The code is my name.
Yeah. You're the star. Of course it is.
And that 15% off, and this is hardly, I went on there and looked at it last night. It's a very affordable journal and so beautiful and bright. And of course, in my colors, there's some of that great fuchsia pink on there that if you look at my headshot photo, it's always in some sort of hot pink kind of a deal, Bob.
Yeah, I'm a pink
Yeah.
girl. But during my divorce, I was so sad and needed like I needed rainbow nails because when I would type for work, it made me feel put together. And so I just started incorporating rainbow into everything, like my nails, just cute
Yeah.
puffs, cute, like little things. And so I wanted this journal to be that little spark of joy that people could turn to in their
And
hard
lime
times.
green and all sorts of wonderful colors on there. I love it.
It's
I
fun.
love it. So at the end of this podcast, if you didn't catch those links on this podcast, we'll also have for you the links to her Instagram account, to her website, and then a reminder again about the code MARY to receive your 15% discount. Lexi, thank you so much for being with here today. You are a light, and I just want to do anything I can to lift that light to shine so bright, so bright. And thanks for joining us.
Crafting a meaningful life.